like and subscribe. Now, what was something hugely popular that suddenly fell off the face of the earth? Those commercials that try and sell you wallpaper for your phone. Not the wallpaper, but the ringtones. Some of them would ask like €7 monthly for a Thai cartoon character yelling at you as a ringtone. Never ever knew someone IRL that paid for that. Ba-ding ding ding ba-boom ba-darang bang 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 B-U-M. Sneakers that you pump up. I had models with both internal and external pumping mechanisms. 3D TVs. I'm not sure if I would call them hugely popular, but it says one year they were super popular, and by the following year there was barely one in sight. There was almost no content produced, and they were insanely expensive. I actually had a 3D ready TV, but the glasses themselves cost something like $150 a piece. I said F that. Ike. Portal 2's co-op mode utilized 3D mode to have a dual full screen experience on the PS3. Each player could use the same screen, but one used the 3D glasses to view the opposing frame of animation. Never played it on that, but a really inventive use of technology. When HD came out, everyone bought a new TV. The TV companies wanted to get everyone to buy a newer TV, so they keep coming up with gimmicks like 3D TVS and curved TVS, but people are not buying them. So there was a lot of hype, but low sales. 3D was popular in theaters too. There are a few movies that didn't age well, because they saw the success of Avatar and thought it was the 3D that people were going to see. I wish they did a different non-3D cut of movies. I don't have binocular vision, so I'm so glad it didn't take off. Those sour Altoids. Damn, those were good. Lofty Pursuits, a YouTube channel and candy maker in Florida, has brought them back recently. OMG. Lofty Pursuits is like 5 minutes from my house. Thank you for this. Tangerine Altoids. Those were awesome. I came here looking for this comment. Susan Powter and her Stop the Insanity videos. She was everywhere on cable TV in the 90s. Now there's a throwback. Back when my mom was all into snack wells and non-fat Entmans. Different colored ketchups. There was one color I would not eat. It made me gag. I think it was the purple one. The purple ketchup tasted different. It smelled different. They claimed it was all the same stuff to make it. Just food coloring. But if that's true, that food coloring did something extreme to it that they just denied that it did. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm certainly not saying it was good. But that purple stuff did not taste like ketchup. I know a guy who saw the fidget spinner thing coming. He mass produced a bunch of them, sold through the entire stock, then sold his company immediately after, and bowed out right before the whole thing cratered. I sort of feel sorry for whoever he left holding the bag, but man, those things just didn't stick around long. Buddy from work bought 500 of them around 1 month before they went away. I think he still has 90% of them. I asked you buy one once, and he wanted $30. He can keep them lol. I never understood the love of those things, but I remember seeing them going for $30-40 when they came out. Couple months later every dollar store had them, and they appeared to be the same level quality. I know a guy who saw the fidget spinner thing coming. He mass produced a bunch of them, sold through the entire stock, then sold his company immediately after, and bowed out right before the whole thing cratered. Must have been a busy afternoon. That man's name? Phineas. I don't know about feeling bad for the bag holders. Some stuff is just so obviously a short-lived fad. Only an idiot would have thought they'd be selling only fidget spinners for years. Tough, but fair. Liver strong bracelets. Yahoo! Games. I used to play so much pool on Yahoo! Hypercolor clothing. It was a look-o-dyed clothing that would color change with heat. Mid 1991 it was super popular, then just gone in 6 months. I thought they were cool until I realized all it did was change color under my tits and pits on a hot day. Connie 2012. I got in trouble when they made us watch that in school. I said that people would forget about it in 6 months. I just didn't expect it to go away in that manner. I really wonder why it was shown to everyone in school, from elementary to high school at the time. Raising awareness, sure. But what exactly did they expect a bunch of American middle schoolers to do about an African militia? Slot car racing. was huge in the 70s. Now it is nearly extinct. I show my class CNN 10 most days. Today's story was about toy companies worrying about having their toys in stock for Christmas due to the dock worker shortage. For some reason, the segment focused on slot cars. I kept asking what year this was that CNN 10 thought kids would connect with slot car makers. What year this was that CNN 10 thought kids would connect with slot car makers. This picture sums up the customer base for slot car racing perfectly. That mustache thing. Like early 2010s, every girl had mustaches on everything. Mustache bags, pencil cases, clothes, etc. Remember when Lyft first started and people identified themselves as Lyft drivers by having a giant fuzzy pink mustache on their front bumper, and you have just pinpointed the moment when mustaches became lame. Just like the mustache thing, there was an owl obsession around this same time. I was in middle school back then, but I'm not from the US. So maybe it wasn't such a big thing there. Also, I think the exact same thing has been happening for a while now with watermelons and avocados. I find it cute, but it's everywhere, at least in South America. I'm going to seem old, but didn't understand the popularity or the sudden disappearance. I remember seeing girls with the index finger mustache tattoo and thinking, oh, someday soon, you're going to regret that. My friend got one of those, but by accident, on the wrong side of her finger, so she has to turn it inward to do the mustache thing. Oh, Ed Hardy clothing. That shit's still around. You'll find the dudes with the bedazzled but pockets on their jeans, adorned in Ed Hardy and their affliction tees. Welcome to Scottsdale. As silly bands anybody, they come in cycles. All three of my kids got into them at different times. They come back whenever schools forget they need to ban them to prevent social castes from forming. Heelys. They're kinda back in style with some of the older Gen Zs. It's an I walk around with a CD player in 2021 type of aesthetic. Skip it, I broke so many of these in my garage. Do the Harlem Shake. I went to a wedding reception in 2019 where the whole wedding party danced to a montage of different songs and then right at the end Harlem Shake. Seeing people in tuxes and fancy dresses do that was pretty amusing, as was explaining to the older people at the reception that what they just witnessed was a craze from like 5 years previously to the older people. Probably to the younger people as well, lol. That's what came to mind. 2. Simpler times. Myspace. Everyone seemed to piece out of it at the same time. It was good for posting music online, and then they lost all the music with a bad migration. I'll never forgive them for the music I lost from my band around 2006 or 2007. Yeah, I miss that about Myspace. It was a social media site that was also sorta like Bandcamp. There were so many oddball and unique indie artists and bedroom producers you could find on there. I was one of the last holdouts. I watched it go from a thriving community to a ghost town in 2009. Still think it was far superior to Facebook. Pogs. Oh man. I still have my tube of Pogs somewhere in the attic. Hundreds of them. I even had Odge Simpson murder trial Pogs. I still have my Odge Slammer. Solid brass. The car chase on one side and Odge in the Slammer on the other. Much like Alf. Remember Alf? Imagine if he came back in Pog form. You traded my soul for Pogs. Juicy couture velour sweet suits with the writing across the A. Furbies. Not that I mind. Those things were creepy. I had an African grey parrot growing up, and we got a Furby to see if they would talk to each other. First day, Zimmy, parrot, climbed down her cage, marched over the window, climbed up a lamp cord, and ripped that Furby to shreds. It could still talk, but it looked like something out of a nightmare. Mine turned on by itself. I threw it out the window, mine did too, and started talking in my closet. Scariest for a grade schooler to hear. This wasn't a Furby, but one year I got a stocking stuffer that was a plushy leprechaun head with a button inside that would make it do a leprechaun laugh when you squeezed it. Somehow it ended up behind a couch and I forgot about it for a few years. Then one night, when I was home alone, I just started hearing this laughter every so often. After a couple times I was freaked out and went searching for whatever was making the noise and tracked it down. Everyone's turned on by themselves because they were sentient. Mitchell's vs the Macans recently vindicated everyone that found those things creepy. The dark harvest has begun. Internet chat rooms. AIM. They went full circle with Discord. It feels like the old chat rooms of the 90s/early 2000s. Both the good and bad, but they filter bots a hell of a lot better now. I remember a time where yo-yos were hugely popular. Devil sticks in the 90s. Slap bracelets, are they still a thing? Those pictures where you stare for a while and the blur becomes a sailboat, magic eye. Are those fidget spinners still around? I used one in the hospital after some trauma, and it was great. I didn't have the mental energy for Netflix, reading, or audiobooks. I loved my fidget spinner and wiggling my toes in brightly colored socks. Fidget spinners, great hospital gifts. Was it given to you as a form of therapy? I ask because a study showed that playing Tetris within the first 6 hours after a trauma can reduce PTSD symptoms. The theory is that it stimulates the same mechanism that EMDR is based on. There are certain patterns of movement that have this really calming effect on the brain and make processing trauma easier. Psychologists have been using either a row of blinking lights or a physical metronome-like device to activate this response in patients for years. I'd bet a fidget spinner would offer similar benefits. Now they use these popping things like unlimited bubble wrap, unlimited bubble wrap. Move over Olive Garden. There's a new sheriff in town. The whole Joe Exotic thing didn't last very long, although there are periodic updates. Among other things, the property was sold and cannot be used as a zoo for at least 100 years, and one of the zookeepers, who did appear on the show, died from an overdose. I honestly feel like that was peak pandemic TV. Dad, what was the COVID pandemic like? Well son, lots of beer, sparks. You were born, and the world distracted itself by learning about a guy named Joe. He owned a lot of tigers. It feels like 4 pandemics ago. I think it was back when we still had some kind of collective hope about going back to normal, and this was a silly show we could all watch in the meantime. Sadly, no one took the message of what is happening in the exotic animal trade. They just think it's fun to think of him. 10 of his cats ended in my state at Turpentine Creek. It's like Upton Sinclair's The Jungle, which was supposed to be an expose on the plight of the industrial working class, and everyone's response was yo, they do what with the food. Season 2 is coming November 17th. There is a lot of Oklahoma left to explore. Please see my old next door neighbor, Safari Joe. He too raised big cats and had his own issues with the law. I think that died off a lot when we realized he wasn't a harmless crazy person. He was actually a harmful, manipulative, dangerous person. Anyone still have a Shaku 8? You mean a masturbation practitioner? The South Park episode playing on the Shake Weight was awesome. Waterbs. LMFAO. They apologized for party rocking and then never party rocked again. They were genuinely sorry, I guess. Everyone was shuffling then just stopped. Every day they were shuffling. Tuesday shuffle, Wednesday shuffle. Their purpose was simply fulfilled. They entered their spaceship in early 2013 and went to the next planet to party rock. They broke up before they had a chance to hit again, I think. Thing is, they were a joke and knew it. The two guys, uncle and nephew, are descendants of one of the founders of Motown. So it's not like they needed the money, they just wanted a good time. Last I heard, one of them was attempting to be a pro tennis player. I love LMFAO. They got in, made their 2 party songs, made a ton of money, and then had the decency to F off. Bacon fetish. For like a decade in the early 2000s, people wouldn't shut up about how bacon was the best thing ever. T-shirts, bumper stickers, men's, aprons, etc. That sh was everywhere, and these days bacon is just a normal food again. I worked with a guy whose personality was bacon. That was it. Bacon for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Bacon vodka, bacon candy, bacon clothes. And he wasn't trying to be obnoxious or cheesy about it. He just thought he was really badass because he wasn't afraid to eat bacon. He also weighed 300 pounds and shit pants once when he got drunk. Flash animations came about in the late 90s/early 2000s. Before Flash was officially retired, it died a slow death. I used to send e-cards all of the time that used Flash. I was a boy crazy 5th grade girl and found a bunch of suggestive but funny e-cards about cute animated guys with songs like It's Raining Men that I would send to my friends. I still remember that one because a bunch of cartoon men in speedos fell from the sky onto a beach, and at the end one animated guy looked around the beach and then out at the screen and made a suggestive noise, whoosh, right over my head. Turns out I was sending e-cards that were meant for gay men. Osiris shoes. Dane Cook, he just wanted to do a B&E. Teen hijinks comedies, American Pie, Road Trip, Superbad, those all seemed to die out about 15 years ago. Oppa Gangnam Style only fell off here. In South Korea, Psy has his own successful record label. Also, didn't he release other songs that were really successful too? Gentleman comes to my mind immediately as his #2 success. I don't care that people started to hate on it and then it disappeared. It brought a ton of joy to the world and I will always love it for that. I'll never forget my rigidly professional former boss randomly doing that in the hallway for like 10 seconds. What a time to be alive. The Snuggie, I still have mine, and I wore it to teach virtually last year. Guitar Hero. Probably Game of Thrones. I don't even see many memes about the ending being bad anymore. No one talks about it. Good answer. I was all ready to slap down $100 to $150 for the full series on Blu-ray and was waiting for it to finish before I bought any seasons. I'm so glad I did, because now I would even pay $50. This is the answer. It went from being one of the universally loved shows of all time to being absolutely hated within half a season. I don't recall any other show that effed over its fan base so comprehensively. Ponchos. It felt like every girl was wearing them in the 2000s, and then I've never seen one since. When someone asks me, do you have a poncho? I don't say no. Instead I say, not right now, because I do have a blanket and some scissors. I'm never more than 2 minutes away from owning a poncho. That was the shortest lived trend of the 2000s. Every store was full of them for about 3 months in 7th grade. Then nobody ever wore them again. Monster High. I remember they were very popular in the mid 2010s. I owned so many dolls and watched all the movies, there were so many, but once I outgrew them, I barely ever heard from them again. Myspace and Bebo. Life was so much simpler when you only had fights over replacing someone in your top 8. Segways. The thing, I forgot what it's called, but it was like 3 balls on a string and you flop it around and it did cool sh. Also Flappy Bird. The shittiest sex I ever had was with a guy who was super into that 3 balls on a string thing. He was on a ton of coke and spent like an hour playing with them to music like some kind of terrible naked bird of paradise. The coke made it so his dick didn't work, and he spent the first hour at his place talking about how everyone thought he was being the last hour complaining about women. I was out of there as soon as I was sober enough to drive, and now I can't see those things without thinking about that guy's shitty bird of paradise impression. He did have a cat, and I got to pet it, though, so the night wasn't a total loss. Fall Guys. It has a huge boost being free on PS Plus. Von Dutch hats. Rest in peace, Bionicle. Decoder rings. Temple Run. BlackBerry phones along with BlackBerry Messenger. Pokemon Go. Sure, it still exists, but there was one summer that it united the world. I still get on it from time to time. Summer 16 was such a crazy time. I wish that feeling would have lasted forever. I spent hours walking around a Revolutionary War site with about 100 other people every night for a month straight when it was new. Damn. That was already that long ago. We'll never get another summer like that. The summer of Pokemon Go was the closest that we will ever be to achieving world peace. People are still into that pretty hard. Google Glass. They were never actually released to the public. I haven't seen a Slinky in real life in over a decade. Got I. Mad About You. Does anyone remember this show? It ran for 8 seasons, about the same time as Seinfeld and Friends. It was hugely popular. It had about 10 million viewers. It had great lead actors Helen Hunt and Paul Reiser. It was critically acclaimed. It won 12 Emmy Awards. People just got sick of rom-coms. It fell off the face of Earth. You can stream it, but no TV channel shows reruns. King of Queens, which is a vastly inferior sitcom, has reruns. Not Mad About You. You guys remember Kinetic Sounds? I loved those when I was a kid. Near place.